Shalom. This is Corey here with Rory in Israel.
Hey guys.
And we just arrived yesterday into the Tel Aviv airport. We took a taxi over to Jerusalem. Our driver was going so fast, he was crazy. He reminded us of Jim Irsay when he got his DUI.
Now I know why you traded for Trent Richardson.
Whoa, okay, taking shots early. All right, anyway though, despite some of Irsay's blunders, we're here to talk about something a little more uplifting, which is not Trent Richardson, which is the March Madness. Everybody's favorite event. Brackets get busted all the time. No reason to even fill one out. Me and Roy are filling out tons. We're never going to stop. We love it. So we're in Israel. We watched the Michigan State game yesterday on CBS, and then we watched the selection show, screaming, yelling about teams not getting in. We're here to dissect it all. Me and my brother Rory in Israel. What could be better?
And by the way, just to show our dedication, we were up till about 12 o'clock Israeli time. I woke Corey up. We took naps at different intervals, getting ready, just so we could be awake for Selection Sunday. And although the stream was a little laggy on CBS, we still managed to watch Selection Sunday, which is always one of the best days of the year for us, at least as sports fanatics. So it was a great day yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Monday after Selection Sunday should be an American holiday. And the Super Bowl. Any Sunday sporting event. Just put Monday off. Nobody has to go to work, no school. Game. I agree. All right, let's make it happen. So we have here, let's begin with our 4 number 1 seeds. Probably a good place to start. Who would have thought at the beginning of the season that Virginia and Wichita State would be 2 of our 4 1 seeds?
It's crazy.
But that's what it is. We have Florida, Virginia, Arizona, and Wichita State as our 4 1 seeds.
And I just want to note, Michigan should definitely be a 1 seed. That's not bias or anything there.
It is bias. Our sister goes there. Roy's a big Michigan fan. Got a tough region.
Yeah.
We're sorry about that. But we'll get to that as our podcast goes on. Virginia with a 1 seed. Good end of the season.
Yeah, beat Duke at the tail end of the season, and then again in the conference tournament in the finals. Virginia, unfortunately, I have to say, definitely deserving of the 1 seed.
Yeah, we had to remind our dad that Ralph Sampson is not on the team. That's how long it's been since Virginia's been good, but they have a number 1 seed. So we'll break it down. We start Wichita State. They got the one in the very difficult Midwest region. Obviously, Wichita is undefeated. They're the first team to finish a regular season undefeated since St. Joseph's in 2004.
Yeah, and it's actually very ironic because they're probably the most controversial, the 1 seeds, because a lot of people say they haven't been tested, although they have beat 3 teams currently in the tournament, St. Louis, BYU, and Tennessee, although their strength schedule is still
and Tulsa, a little
later, 4 NCAA tournament teams. But a little controversial, but I personally, in my opinion, think they deserve to be a number 1 seed.
So they're also the first team to enter the tournament undefeated since UNLV in 91 because St. Joseph's lost in their conference tournament in 04. That UNLV team lost in that great game to Duke in 91, the Final Four Duke team that went on to win the national title. So Roy mentioned it. Wichita State, 112th in strength of schedule. They didn't play a top 25 RPI team. But they are undefeated. They had to get a 1 seed.
Yeah, I think Wichita State had to get a 1 seed. When you go undefeated, it really doesn't even matter who you play unless you're Stephen F. Austin, for that matter. I think the Missouri Valley, I mean, wherever you go, whatever conference, when you're playing these games away at these hostile environments, if to win every game is just a feat that can't be denounced.
Yeah, and you have to remember, Wichita State made the Final Four last season. They lost a really good point guard, but still a very similar team. I don't think it's really disputed. Although they didn't have a great strength of schedule, undefeated's undefeated. They're a number 1 seed.
And then to the Arizona Wildcats and the Florida Gators, probably the 2 top teams according to most people. A lot of people have Florida actually winning their bracket. I personally
we'll get to it. Don't ruin your pick.
Not yet? Oh, sorry.
That's future podcasts to come. But as Rory said, so Florida, Arizona get 2 number 1s. Florida's won 26 games in a row. First SEC team to go 18-0 in conference play in the history of the conference.
And Florida coming off a big win against Kentucky in the finals. Got a little scary. Kentucky almost came back. Kentucky showing who they maybe could be, but Florida is still probably one of the strongest teams all around. And when you have Casey Hill on your bench, I mean,
yeah, wow.
That's just a great team.
So Florida deserves the number 1. Arizona, although they finished 9-4, they deserved the number 1. I think the big discussion was the 4th number 1 seed. Virginia won the ACC regular season, won the ACC tournament, one of a few teams that's not Duke or Carolina to do that.
Yeah.
But here's the question. Do you think Virginia deserved it over teams like Michigan and Villanova?
I think yes. I think they beat Duke in obviously in the finals of the conference tournament. I think that's what it came down to. I thought and a lot of the analysts thought that if Michigan beat Michigan State in their Big Ten conference title, that they would have actually been on to be the 1 seed. But it comes down to that last game, and unfortunately, Virginia did pull out the win against Duke, and it was actually a 9-point game, but it was pretty close for the most part. So I think Virginia overall deserved the 1 seed, and they also beat teams like Syracuse, North Carolina, Pittsburgh, and actually SMU, and we'll talk about that a little later. But that was a heated topic between Corey and me last night.
So I think the thing that hurt Michigan in their pursuit of 1 seed was in the non-conference they lost 4 games, and they lost to Charlotte. They didn't get any of their big wins. And losing to Michigan State, I think, in the Big Ten conference final, and Virginia won the ACC conference final, probably put Virginia on that 1 line and dropped Michigan to the 2 line. Also, Villanova lost in their conference tournament, which probably dropped Villanova from a 1 line to a 2 line because Seton Hall, not a very good team.
And obviously, Michigan, 2 tough losses to Arizona and Iowa State. And I remember watching that Arizona game. I still think it should have been a foul when Nick Johnson was driving in. But besides that, they don't really take in consideration close losses. But still, didn't really do well in the non-conference. So I think you got to give it to Virginia. Although Virginia didn't really have that many nice non-conference wins either, only against SMU, if I do remember.
That's correct. Virginia did not have a great non-conference. That's actually a pretty good. That's a good segue right now. Yeah. We're talking about the bubble. Larry Brown, obviously. SMU had a renaissance this season. Finished 23-9, 12-6 in the American. Did not get in. So we're going to dissect that right now. The reason that the committee gave for SMU not getting in was the fact that their non-conference strength of schedule was 303rd. Their best win in the non-conference was against Texas A&M.
Who's not even in the tournament, so it's not a really great win.
So obviously, there's no disputing SMU did not have a good non-conference. They didn't play a lot of good teams in the non-conference. They didn't have a lot of good non-conference wins.
And let's face it, in the conference tournament, and when it really comes down to these big games, these almost playing games, as we like to say, they lost to Houston, and that's unexcusable for a team.
But here's the problem that I have with SMU not getting in. They cited the fact that SMU did not have a strong non-conference, and they didn't have a strong non-conference win. But St. Louis got a 5 seed, which is a very high seed for St. Louis. And St. Louis, likewise, did not have a good non-conference strength of schedule. Their non-conference strength of schedule was 102. They lost to Wichita and Wisconsin, and their best non-conference win was Indiana State. So this is my question to you. If SMU doesn't get in for not having a strong non-conference and not getting a lot of wins, how does St. Louis get such a high seed when they didn't have such a good non-conference and didn't have a lot of wins? Is it because they had a 26-6 record? I just don't think that the consistency was there from the committee.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Weak non-conference schedule, again from St. Louis. A10 a tough conference. Both the AAC and the A10 tough conferences. SMU
not treated by the committee. The American got crushed, and the A10 did really well. But
that is very true. But I'm looking at their wins right now. Cincinnati, Connecticut twice, Memphis. Those aren't great wins. Do you know who St. Louis actually beat? Any significant wins?
But that's the thing. St. Louis, they did not.
They only beat Dayton and St. Joseph. They did beat VCU, which is a very good game, and UMass. So both 4 kind of quality wins when you look at the team. So yes, I do think they were treated unfairly, and I think definitely we were talking about this last night, and you actually tweeted out. I think it's terrible how BYU got in over SMU. I would have taken SMU in my bracket if I was on the committee.
Here's what I'm saying. I understand if you're not going to take SMU. There's perfect, legitimate reasons to not take SMU. I think one reason is that they lost to South Florida and Temple, 2 teams that were not very good. And they also finished the season with 3 straight losses to Louisville, Memphis, and Houston. So that's fine. And it's also fine to say that they don't get in for not having a good non-conference and not having any good non-conference wins. I think that everybody should just be treated on the same plane, though. If St. Louis doesn't have the same problems that SMU had, St. Louis should also get penalized. And I just don't think the committee penalized St. Louis and other teams for not doing well in non-conference as they did to SMU.
I totally agree. And you see, actually talking about the BYU thing, how they actually had a tougher non-conference. They played Stanford and Texas both in the RPI top 50. So I guess they really do think of non-conference schedule as bigger, but obviously they didn't show it with the St. Louis versus SMU.
Exactly. So let's talk about BYU. They're another bubble team. They were a 10 seed, which is very high, I think, and what you were alluding to.
I think they should. I thought they were gonna be last four in, or I thought they were actually gonna be last four by, but I wouldn't be surprised by last four in. But to be a 10 seed, that was very surprising for me.
Yeah, so they finished 13-5 in the WCC, which isn't that strong of a conference. Mm-hmm. And I think the thing that's really important here is Kyle Collinsworth, who's their second leading scorer. He's out for the season. So this is another question with Joel Embiid. Do you think the committee should look at which players are on the floor in determining if a team's in the tournament?
I think that's very tough to kind of think of, or to base a team or their seeding off a missed player. But
if he's not in the tournament,
that is very true. It is a different team. I mean, Joel Embiid, that is a very different team without. But I still think you have to do it on the resume and the complete schedule. In my opinion, I think you have to do it based off their RPI, the strength schedule, all the things that the committee originally does. I really don't think you can take just a hurt player and kind of hurt a team for it.
Okay, so that's BYU. Another team that got in that made a lot of noise was NC State. Obviously, they have TJ Warren, and they beat Syracuse. They got some other good wins. They beat Tennessee on the road. NC State probably was put in ahead of SMU. Mm-hmm. So that's another bubble team who got in. What are your thoughts? And obviously, if you have a player like TJ Warren, he can do a lot of damage in the tournament.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I look at guys like T.J. Warren, prolific scorers. He's got
Doug McDermott,
great mid-range games. Guys that could single-handedly take a team that could be like a mid 11-10 seed, but can really bring them off the echelon. I compare T.J. Warren to kind of almost like a hybrid, like Stephon Curry. I don't want to say it because he's not that prolific of a shooter, but Doug McDermott, he just finds ways to score, TJ Warren. I mean, it showed in the Syracuse game.
Almost 25 points a game this season.
That's just absurd.
I think if they get by Xavier, they could really prove a tough test for St. Louis, which we will get to.
I don't want to spoil any of that yet.
Nope.
But one thing I want to bring up, and Corey can attest to this fact, at the beginning of the season, I actually said to Corey that... not at the beginning of the season, more midway through, that I didn't think the 1 seeds were that strong in my own opinion. And I said, Corey, and you can test this, I said an 8 or 9 seed would beat a 1 seed.
He has been saying that for a while.
I don't want to say who I have in that, but I think it's pretty obvious that teams like an Oklahoma State against an Arizona with Marcus Smart, just absolute grinder and
top 5 pick,
competitor, showing that he is, and the guy and Kentucky, which has the athletes and the talent and the coaching to match up with any team in the nation against Wichita, which could be a great matchup. So I just think the parity in college basketball is there. I think the 1 seeds are really not that far from the 8 seeds. I think Kentucky is just as good as a Wichita State. I mean, although they haven't showed it, they're really coming together in these last couple games.
So parity in college basketball we see once again this season.
Yeah. And I also thinking one more, Connecticut, Villanova. Just don't want to put my pick out
but
there.
There it is, UConn.
There it is.
Shabazz Napier reminds me a little of Kemba when they made that run.
Yeah, the step back. He's a total competitor. He comes up clutch in the big moments. So I think you got to watch out for them.
So we have a few more things to talk about on this podcast before we end. We're now going to go to teams that were underseeded and teams that we think were a little bit overseeded. So we'll begin with an underseeded team that I think I have, and I think you agree with.
Yeah, New Mexico.
Yeah, so New Mexico, they got the 7 seed out in the southern region, which is Florida's region. They could play Kansas in the second round if they beat Stanford and the Fighting Dawkins. And so New Mexico, they were 14th in the RPI, 27-6 overall, 15-3 in the Mountain West. They beat San Diego State twice. They beat Cincinnati, who was the co-regular season champion of the American in non-conference. A top 50 strength of schedule. They have Kendall Williams, Cameron. They have Bearstone.
Mountain West Conference Player of the Year.
Yeah. So obviously they have a good 2-headed punch there. I just think they were a little underseeded. 7 seed. That's a little rough.
And if you look at some of the teams on the 6 seed line, I think they should be over Baylor. I think they should be over Ohio State.
UMass.
I'm not personally a big Ohio State fan. And I think you can make a legitimate argument putting them ahead of St. Louis, to be quite honest. I think St. Louis was actually overseeded. We talked about that earlier, though. We'll move on from that.
And like Oklahoma as a 5 seed, I think Oklahoma was overseeded. Yeah. I think you can easily make a case that New Mexico, who beat teams like Cincinnati, San Diego State twice, has better wins than Oklahoma, who lost to Kansas twice. I mean, they beat Iowa State and Baylor, but besides going 12-6 in the Big 12, they didn't really do a lot to warrant a 5 seed.
Yeah, I totally agree.
So I think you're right there. A team who's underseeded, in my opinion, I know you might agree, disagree.
I actually very much disagree.
We've talked about this so much
and
before.
a little bias, seeing as yes, Louisville did beat my Michigan Wolverines last year in the finals, but it's not even because of that. I do have legitimate reasons behind my statements.
So why don't I'll go first.
Oh, Corey, take it first.
I'll go first. I'll do the gentleman's honor.
Sorry.
So Louisville. Here's why I think that they should be ahead of a 4 seed. First, they are playing some of the best basketball in the country right now. They are 16-2 in their last 18 games. They won the American Conference tournament. They also should have won. Well, they tied for the regular season with Cincinnati. They lost a coin flip, so that's why they got the number 2 seed. Who does a coin flip to decide things? They do in the NFL draft too.
I know.
Heads or tails.
It's like backyard sports. Flip a coin and you get the seed.
It's like Matt Hasselbeck. He calls it and he thinks they're going to win the game, and then he throws the pick. Okay, whatever. We're going on tangents here.
Extremely random, but let's get back on top.
So Louisville. I understand the argument that you're going to make non-conference. I'll let you take that. But in conference, they beat UConn 3 times, a good UConn team. They beat Cincinnati on the road. They beat SMU twice, including SMU on the road, a very tough place to play. I just think they're playing well enough. They have one of the best players in the country in Russ Smith, big-time scorer. I just think that Louisville deserves to be better than a 4 seed. Now present your piece.
Now, I think you already know what I'm going to bring up, but it's the non-conference. Look who they played. They played, not who they played, but who they've beaten. They lost to Kentucky and North Carolina, and their best win is against Southern Miss, a team that didn't even make the tournament. They're non-conference. We've been talking about it all day. I really want to get the committee's opinion on non-conference versus conference, which one they think is more important, because I'm confused right now by the committee, but they just do
The NCAA making people confused. Oh no, what is going on?
This isn't the first time, actually, believe it or not. But anyway, I just think their non-conference is just, it's not good enough to warrant a 4 seed. I think they struggle besides Russ Smith. If Russ Smith is not going off and having 27 points a game, they do struggle, and I think that's my big thing. And they lost to Memphis twice, and I think they're a good team. Don't get me wrong. I just think for what they are, I think they're overseed. I think the AAC as a whole is not that good. I think you have to take it at face value. I believe that the A10 is a better conference than the AAC. I think they definitely got a nice seeding, but they did play well in the conference, and I agree 16-2 in the last couple games. I think that's what really got on the 4 seed. They really do take how you finish as a point for how they seed you.
Yeah, they do it in college football too, which is another argument. But
for another time.
Yeah.
And again, the NCAA.
But I think we agree on UConn. I know that you don't love the American, but I think we can agree UConn also as a 7 seed. They're in the region, the East region. I think they were undefeated.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I think
Shabazz, Napier. We both love Shabazz.
And
we like
point
Bo
guard,
Wright.
Scrappy. Reminds me of me when I played basketball. In 4th grade, but
yeah, and
that's another
maybe
story.
4th grade. But he's crazy good. He was amazing in the American. Really good league with Kilpatrick,
a rough loss to Louisville.
Russ Smith. Yeah, they did have a rough
tournament,
loss.
But only 10 points. It was pretty close. I don't think the score really shows what kind of happened in that game. But I guess, like I said, that's how they kind of rank you that last game. So
we have there a little conference breakdown just for perspective. The American got 4 teams in, A10 6, ACC 6, Big 12 7. Big 12 had no team lower than a 9 seed, so Big 12 did really well this year. Mm-hmm. Big East 4, Big 10 6, Mountain West 2, Pac 12 6, SEC only 3. Disappointing year.
Very bad. This was football. I don't know what they'd do down
there.
There.
They didn't win the national title, though, this year.
We'll leave that for another time. We don't want to anger our Southern fans if we have any.
Okay, and obviously 2 from the West Coast, BYU and Gonzaga.
And it's actually funny, just quick thing. We kind of talk about how it used to be the Big East that dominated the conference in college basketball, and we kind of talked about a lot of people. If you were a big basketball fan, everyone's Big 10 or ACC, but the Big 12 kind of silently doing their thing, got 7 teams, and that's good for the Big 12. Good shit.
Yeah, Kansas won the league again, their 10th straight. Somebody wrote an article on that the other day. I don't know who that was. I think it was me.
Check out CoryTellAllSports.blogspot.com if you want to see this or his article, and you can see Corey go off on tangents. But back on point.
Oh, not going off on a tangent there. But yeah, so the Big 12 did very well this year. 2 Kansas teams in, 2 Oklahoma teams in, Texas, Baylor, so they did really well. Mm-hmm. So now that we've gone through the conference, we've gone everything else aside from the brackets. We're going to dive into the brackets real quick. Just initial impressions of what we see. I think the thing that stands out right away, Midwest region. Let's just talk, not even basketball, okay, for a second. You read a section, Kentucky, Louisville, Duke, Michigan. That is the NCAA's dream. That's the flashy schools. Everybody knows them. It doesn't matter if they have no wins in the season. People will watch Duke, Michigan, Louisville, Kentucky.
And also
that's
Texas
the glamour
in there
region.
if you wanna,
and Texas.
you
They
wanna
have
throw
their
the
own
glamour
network. I mean, geez. And Wichita's undefeated. So, I mean, the Midwest is stacked.
It's just ridiculous. I guess they do it by location. I mean, that's how Michigan got into it. Being a Michigan fan, I am super pissed about that bracket. That's a very tough bracket. I mean, just look at all the teams are gonna have to beat. Texas or Arizona State, whichever they fare against. It's not an easy game. Texas had a great year this year, looking like their football team or something. But Texas had a good year, and then they're gonna have to face Duke or UMass. UMass, a very senior-heavy team, lots of experience. I think you can see an upset there, UMass Duke. But again, not trying to divulge into the bracket yet. And at the top, that is scary. St. Louis, Louisville to highlight the 4 and 5. And Kentucky, if they can get out of their own way against Kansas State and Wichita State, just second round, every round in that bracket's going to be exciting.
Yeah, so Midwest, that's the region to be. If you had to go, if you're fortunate enough to get tickets, head out there. That's where the best games are at.
Indianapolis, I believe it's in. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure.
That's right, yeah.
It's regional.
Yeah,
yes.
so if you're out in the Indianapolis area and you don't want to see Jim Irsay in jail...
Okay, we got to stop making fun of Jim Irsay, especially Corey. He's your president.
I know, but still, he's just...
You're making Bill Belichick look good. That's pretty tough, too.
So, there's the Midwest region. Obviously, by all accounts, the toughest region that we have in this year's tournament.
But I think the South is pretty tough, too, if you look. From bottom to top, Florida, Kansas highlighting the 1 and 2 seeds. But it's...
The easy region, I think South and East, pretty difficult. The West, I think, got the easy region.
The West did get the easy region. It boggles my mind how the committee can pick these. But I'm not going to say anything. I don't want to kind of go into the bracket yet. We're totally separate videos on that. But yes, yeah. I think the West and the East is...
You don't want an NCAA investigation to start over.
It
might take 10 years to do.
Yeah, 10-year Miami thing going for us. So we'll just stop at that.
But, I mean, yeah, the West, Arizona, Wisconsin, Creighton, San Diego State, Oklahoma, the top 5 teams. I mean, Creighton has really good offensive efficiency, but they rely a lot on McDermott.
And if McDermott doesn't show he struggled a little against Providence, I just don't think they're a top team. I think they're a good team. Don't get me wrong, but I think without McDermott going 25 points a game like he averages, so it's a struggle for them.
And Arizona lost Brandon Ashley. Since then, they haven't been as good. I'm not sure if I trust
Aaron
them.
Gordon, one of the best / weirdest players in the college.
So athletic.
So athletic for a power forward. It feels like he should be like a small forward type, but he's kind of a big body. So he's just an awkward player. But Arizona's still a good team with Nick Johnson, great shooter. And then just to the east quick, you got Virginia, Villanova. But everyone, and we saw it on ESPN, we were watching actually in Israel on First Row Sports, great site. And
don't give up our secrets, right?
Don't go on firstrowsports.com, though. You'll have some problems there. But anyway, Michigan State, it seems like everyone's picking up. But hey, I think there's another team, but we'll divulge into that a little bit.
And Roy told me a cool fact on that, since everybody's loving the Michigan State Louisville bandwagon, 2 4 seeds. Hit them up, Roy, with your great fact. He keeps on telling me this.
I saw it on Twitter. Thank you, ESPN Stats and Info. But the last time a team above a 3 seed has won national championship is the 4 seed. And Corey, who was it?
It was Arizona
in 1997.
Yes. So yeah,
interesting fact, but I think that could happen this year when you look at Michigan State, Louisville, 2 very strong 4 seeds.
Yeah, that was Mike Bibby. So you have it there with us. We're pumped for the tournament. We're pumped to see the Midwest region, the group of death, as the United States is going to have in the World Cup. We're excited for that as well, but that's way down the line. Brackets are here. We're really excited to win $1 billion in the Warren Buffett. Yeah, thank you.
We'll gladly accept it.
Yeah, we'll split it
between
us.
No, we don't even have to do the bracket. You can just give us $1 billion.
Yeah, so either way. So it's been really fun here. Hopefully we'll be able to watch the games tomorrow night. The first 4 starts. And so we'll see you then. We're going to do a breakdown of each region as the week goes along.
And as they say in Israel, todah. That means thank you, I believe. Don't quote me on that. You don't want to get in trouble with the locals.
All right. Thanks, guys.